Hello and welcome to another Top 10 Thingies in Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're taking a look at a trending topic, the worst NPC jobs in Final Fantasy XIV. And there's quite a lot. Huh? What's that? But I already recorded all the footage. I even have a script. It seems I've just been informed that the worst NPC jobs is not the trending topic, and it is the worst player jobs. Well, I already made this footage, so I guess we're going to talk about the worst NPC jobs. Heading over to Lower Lenosha at the Red Rooster Steed, we got this massive farm that not only has fields of various vegetables and other flora, but it also has fauna, which is very uncommon in a lot of the farms in Final Fantasy to have both of these. Usually it tends to be one or the other. The job specifically we're focusing at this location is being a caretaker for the Dodos, as many of the NPCs here describe it. While it may be a very exciting job, it is exciting for the wrong reason. As you might imagine, the dodo birds are not the brightest of birds. They tend to not only sabotage themselves, but destroy the farmland they're staying at, from breaking down fences to running off and getting themselves in trouble. It is quite the task for the NPCs here to take care of just a few big dumb birds. A stone's toss away at Western Fanland in Hammerlea, we are taking a look at these employees working on these massive hammers. In this location, we bear witness to the hammers being used to make a foundation for massive estates to be made and occupied by not the refugees working here, but the wealthy of Ul'dah. Talking to the various refugees working here, they are being often shouted at by their bosses. They often complain about how loud these hammers are, and you can even see how sweltering the conditions are in the hot Ul'dah sun blazing down on them. There are also various campfires scattered about each hammer, so I assume it gets quite cold out here at night as well. With all this, there's also a random NPC who remarks about the wandering minstrel and was even gifted a flute by him. I thought that was kind of funny. Over in Lakeland, we are taking a look at the Mechatoads. Bossed around by their drunken dwarven masters, these Mechatoads work in eternity, doing various menial tasks that could easily be done by the dwarves themselves. Dragging booze along from location to location, fetching small mining equipment. One of these Mechatoads even attempts to initiate a self-destruct, though sadly they fail. As you go along through the various parts of the dwarven encampments, you can see that none of them are being very productive at all. It seems that once they built these Mechatoads, they felt no need to do really anything except boss them around. How well would these dwarves survive on their own if it wasn't for these Mechatoads? It's hard to say. And even with all of this, they are forcing the Mechatoads to create weapons of destruction in the form of tanks. Definitely a job I would not wish upon anyone. Back to Lenosha we go. Heading over to the Oakwood, we run into a group of pirates that are known as the Salthound. They have given up their life of piracy after the outlawing of piracy in Limsa Lominsa. Some of them seem to be okay with this, but a lot of them are very disgruntled by this fact. Now, if being an ex-pirate is not hard enough, the majority of the Salthounds are Boatswain. A Boatswain is a higher-ranking senior member of a boat's deck. They're usually in charge of making sure everyone is doing their job. They are more or less a manager of a boat, but not the highest ranking captain or other officers above them. Now, why this is a bit funny is there's usually only one boatswain per boat. So either this crew has lost a lot of their, well, crew, or they have very many boatswains just packed onto one. Now that implies that there must have been a lot more to this crew at some point, because all that's really left here are boatswains. So I imagine getting a job legitimately on a ship in Limsa must be quite difficult for them now, given the saturation of the position of boatswain among them. Even with all this, they are trying to make a living at the lumber mill, but are constantly attacked by all manner of creatures, from kobolds to korel, and even wharf rats. And they don't win any of these, so not the most fearsome pirate crew. I could see why they decided to change jobs. Over in Ishgard, talking about those employed in restoring Ishgard to its former glory. With the attack of the dragons, there was much destruction that occurred, and with that, a lot of work to be done, a lot of heavy labor. Immediately, we see even the knights are trying to contribute, well, as best they can. This doesn't seem to be their skill set, as we can tell by this poor guy dangling for his entire life. Looking around, we can see even citizens are contributing to helping reconstruct everything. Down low, we even get to see refugees trying to help out. Seems like a skill set that many do not have in this location. Given the aristocratic nature of Foundation, many are not suited for such labor outside of the knights. A bit of a goof on their part, or maybe they just thought it might be annoying to listen to, is none of the people with pickaxes trying to work away the rubble have sound effects tied to them. They're just kind of swinging. They could really use for some better equipment, given how heavy some of this rubble must be to move. So we'd see very many attempting to lift more than they should be. Truly, a miserable job being a Garlean Foot-soldier. What could be worse than having to throw yourself blindly at the Warrior of Light as they go around slaughtering you by the countless, the thousands and the hundreds? What more is there to say? You're the fodder of the lowest ranking of the Garleans. There's a very good chance you are not even doing this voluntarily. The Garleans have quite the storied history of forcing militarism. Given the Garleans' past in history, I could see why many of them are so willing to throw themselves against a force that they feel they have no chance of standing it. Being forced out of their homelands and stripped of everything they loved, one could see why many of them, even those forced into the military, would have quite a lot of pride in wanting to keep going on. If only they knew that they were going up against the Warrior of Light. Heading over to Limsa again, we are going to Mealvaan's Gate Customs Officers. In Mealvaan's Gate, we have host to a location where all cargo and crew that come in and out of the ports are inspected and taxed appropriately. Within here also hosts the Arcanist Guild, who are well versed in magics, which helps assist with inspection. Many of the customs officers here make mention of how difficult it can be to deal with the customers in this location, from them accusing them of robbery due to the taxations, and simply just giving people a hard time. I imagine this job might be the equivalent of working at airports or a DMV or other very menial governmental jobs that have to deal with the public on a day-to-day basis. As people who work in this field might imagine, many pedestrians can be quite easy to aggravate when they feel like their time is being, though some things just take a lot of time to do, and this is one of them. This really is a thankless job, but one that needs to be done, for the risk of anything dangerous going in and out of the city is the utmost importance. Taking a big jump over to Tuliyollal, we are going to check out the crew that maintains and operates the drums. When you come here during the day, you can see the drummers as well as various assistants working on maintaining the drum itself. Given how exposed this drum is to the elements, I must imagine it takes a lot of effort to keep this thing up to par and making sure the sound is as best as it possibly can be. Looking at the drum, you can see that the batter head is quite worn, even on the top high parts where the drummers are not. So it makes me think they must rotate the entire drum at some points in order to get the most out of the drum before they have to change out the batter heads. The head of the drums seems to be fastened in a similar manner to a, I'm going to butcher the name of this, Wiwicha drum, or maybe it's Wewecha, except excluding the presence of any ropes anywhere, which is very strange because a lot of more old traditional drums tend to have ropes in order to help tune the drum itself, especially as the head gets more worn over time. This tends to become a very important thing. Even though Dawn Trail is themed after a more Mesoamerican cultures, this drum tends to have more in common with a Zhangyu drum, which is a Chinese war drum, as it is a lot more simple and there's not a lot going on in terms of the components used to construct it. Nearby here, there is a side quest. It's very short, so it's definitely worth doing if you want to get a little more insight into how the ongoings occur with this drum. To sum it up, the drum here is used for all manner of things, from indicating the time of day, like you would hear with a clock tower nowadays, to honoring the return of the Landsguard as they return from their various duties. It's also used as an alarm for danger that is approaching the city. As well with all this, its most common use is to perform music. If you come here during the nights, you will also see the drummer performing on it the entire time. What worse fate can there be than having to be employed under the Mogs of Moghome? These Mogs will do anything to not work, and that includes making you do all of their dirty work. They would rather just sit around eating their kupo nuts all day, and if you disagree with them, they might give you a stab or two. Coupled with their laziness, they tend to enjoy doing pranks, as you can see not only during the main scenario quest, but as well as the Allied Society quest and the United quest, where they do all manner of nefarious things to the Dinsians of this location. You could almost say this is worse than working for the Fae in the first. Overall, just an employer you do not want to work for. Don't let their cuteness deceive you. And now, the most underappreciated NPC job in Final Fantasy XIV, that's right, the janitors. The unseen janitors that you never see in the game. Who has been keeping this entire place clean? Well, somebody must be doing it. And they're doing it right under our eyes. If you go in any of the various locations, because this is an MMO, a lot of the areas don't get debris or any sort of static. You tend to see them in a very pristine case, and it's up to the player to imagine that somebody at some point is cleaning and maintaining these various locations. So the next time you're in an area, you might want to think about who's been cleaning this place this entire time, because they're doing a great job. Well, that will do it for another top 10 thingies in Final Fantasy XIV. Up here, up on... up here, another top 10 video. Down here, another video. Over here, subscribe. And thank you to my members. Remember that members will always be an optional thing on my channel. All video content on my channel will be free, available to everyone. This is just an extra way for people to support me. Bye-bye. Bye.